If Santa stayed home, why, there'd be no Christmas.
Who cares? No. I better call the boys. Tell them to cancel Christmas.
All right, enough of this. I hate to do this to you boys.
You think you know the year without a Santa Claus, but you've never heard the strange version that hides behind the snow. A weather war nobody explained. A Hollywood legend's secret goodbye. A Japanese studio quietly building. Why Santa really wants to quit, Mrs. Claus takes over, and why one tiny reindeer ends up behind bars. But before we get to the wildest part, let me tell you about the two brothers who actually control Christmas. Fact 1. The brothers who control Christmas weather. Before Elsa ever froze a kingdom, Rankin gave us two brothers who control the weather, Heat Miser and Snow Miser. One loves heat, the other loves snow, and they're always arguing. Their mom, Mother Nature, is the only one who can keep them from fighting too much. These characters weren't even in the original book. The writers made them up just for the TV special. It's like Christmas mixed with a little bit of Greek mythology and a Broadway show for kids. They totally stole the spotlight. Kids didn't repeat Santa's lessons, they sang "I'm Mr. Heat Miser" over and over until their parents begged them to stop. The idea that Christmas depends on two bickering weather brothers is pure Rankin magic. Funny, strange, and unforgettable. No wonder people later thought it came from some old myth. It feels older than the North Pole itself. Fact 2, the Santa special made in Japan. This classic American Christmas story wasn't made at the North Pole at all, it was made in Japan. Rankin Bass's famous animagic stop-motion style came from a Tokyo studio called MOM Video, Tokyo Productions. Every snowflake, reindeer, and twinkling light was moved by hand, one frame at a time, by Japanese artists who had never even celebrated Christmas that way before. It's amazing to think of a 1970s crew in Tokyo carefully building Santa's world out of clay. The result feels both familiar and new Eastern skill mixed with Western nostalgia. You can see the teamwork in every tiny detail. Santa's beard, the shiny bells, and the glow of winter light. Fact 3. Shirley Booth's goodbye to Hollywood. That warm, grandmotherly voice you hear in the special?
Do I know so much about Santa? Well, I'm Mrs. Claus. It was long ago, before you were living.
That's Shirley Booth, one of Hollywood's biggest stars. She won an Oscar, 2 Emmys, and a Tony Award, and then she ended her career by voicing Mrs. Claus in this very show.
When you're in the throes of a character, you don't make very much sense.
This was her final performance, a soft and loving farewell to television. Her calm, kind voice keeps the story balanced. She's gentle when Santa feels hopeless, and funny when the North Pole needs a smile. It feels personal, like she was saying goodbye not just to her fans, but to an entire era of television. When the credits rolled, Shirley Booth stepped away, and Mrs. Claus stayed forever. Fact 4. Santa almost canceled Christmas. Because of a cold? Yep. Santa Claus almost called off Christmas because he caught a cold.
Now, Santa, you just rest yourself a bit longer. I've already sent for the doctor. We'll have you back on your feet in no time.
He sneezes once. The doctor says nobody cares anymore, and Santa gives up. Sounds silly, right?
Oh, come now. If Santa stayed home, why, there'd be no Christmas.
Who cares? Nobody cares about Christmas anymore.
But it also fits the mood of the 1970s, a tired time when people felt worn out. Santa isn't really sick. He's burned out. He feels like no one believes in him anymore. So Mrs. Claus has to take charge while he stays in bed, feeling sorry for himself.
Call the boys. Tell them to cancel Christmas.
It's funny and a little sad too, because it's really about feeling unappreciated. Even the world's most famous giver needed a reminder that people still care.
Anyone can play Santa. I fantasize.
Fact 5. The town that wanted snow was real.
Look down there. Southtown, USA.
The sunny town begging for snow, Southtown, USA was based on a real place, Oxford, Mississippi. The writers wanted a spot that rarely sees snow, where kids only dream of white Christmases. You can feel that small town life, the courthouse square, friendly neighbors, and children looking up, waiting for flakes that never come. It's the opposite of the North Pole, warm air, green trees, and people singing carols under palm leaves. When snow finally falls, it feels like magic. A wish that finally came true. That one snowfall wasn't just weather, it was hope.
Yeah!
This is serious.
Boy, it's worse than I thought.
Fact 6. The songs that stole Christmas. The most unforgettable part of The Year Without a Santa Claus isn't Santa at all. It's the Miser Brothers. Their songs I'm Mr. Heat Miser and I'm Mr. Snow Miser became instant hits.
Don't just stand there, you fools! They're part of that Santa Claus!
They dance, they argue, and they totally steal the show. Kids sang those tunes nonstop.
Of course, I never dreamed that little Vixen would make the mistake of...
By the 1990s, the brothers had their own merch, parodies, and cover versions on CDs. Even Entertainment Weekly joked that they hijacked Santa's special. Today, people still dress up as the misers at Christmas parties. Somehow, two arguing brothers became bigger than Santa himself, proof that a little chaos makes the holidays fun. Fact 7. The 2008 sequel that brought them back. More than 30 years later, the Misers returned. In 2008, A Miser Brothers Christmas brought back the stop-motion look, this time in high definition. The best part? The original voices returned. Mickey Rooney came back as Santa, and George S. Irving returned as Heat Miser.
And who does? Oh, Mother!
Hearing them again felt like a reunion nobody expected. The animation was smoother, but it still had that same handmade heart. It proved that some stories don't fade, they just keep refreezing every few decades. Fact 8. From ABC to AMC, A New Home for Santa. When the special first aired in 1974, it was on ABC. Years later, AMC picked it up and turned it into a holiday tradition. Now it plays every December alongside newer Christmas movies, and it still holds up. That's pretty amazing for a 50-year-old stop-motion show built with clay, wire, and a lot of heart. Each rerun introduces new kids to the Miser Brothers and Mrs. Claus's quiet strength. For adults, it's a warm reminder that Christmas doesn't disappear, it just switches channels. Every time it flickers on TV, it feels like Christmas has come home again. Fact 9. The poet who wrote Christmas in rhyme. Before Clay Santa ever sneezed, a poet imagined his story. The Year Without a Santa Claus began as a 1956 children's book by Phyllis McGinley, a famous poet who even won a Pulitzer Prize. Her verses sound like carols on a cold night, gentle and musical. Rankin took her simple idea, what if Santa lost hope, and turned it into a big adventure with the Miser Brothers and Mother Nature. You can still feel her poetry in the way the story moves. It almost rhymes, even when nobody is singing. That's why it feels soft, calm, and timeless. Fact 10. Mickey Rooney, the man who was Santa. If Santa had a resume, Mickey Rooney's name would be on it 3 times. He first played Santa in Santa Claus is Coming to Town 1970, then here in 1974, and again in Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July 1979. Rooney gave Santa a real personality, part grumpy grandpa, part big-hearted hero. His voice sounded warm, wise, and a little tired, like someone who'd been down a lot of chimneys. As kids, we didn't know the actor's name. We just trusted that voice. For a whole generation, Mickey Rooney was the sound of Christmas.
Some rest. I'm not feeling my best.
Honey,
Fact 11. Snow Miser, cool with a wink.
the Miser Brothers? Oh dear.
Dick Shawn, a comedian and Broadway actor, played Snow Miser, the icy show-off who loved to dance. He wasn't scary at all. He was funny, stylish, and full of swagger.
Hey, man. Coming up after all these years. Look at me. Come on, boy. Everybody's been waiting, man. You don't know how long we've been waiting.
With his shiny blue suit and jazzy moves, Snow Miser felt like the life of a winter party. Every grin, every ba-da-da. As kids, we copied his shoulder pops. As adults, we noticed how clever the performance really was. Shawn made coolness part of Christmas and turned frost into fun.
Well, I'm afraid he's got a pretty bad cold, Snowy.
Oh, that's a shame, the poor...
Fact 12. The men behind the music. Those songs that stick in your head didn't happen by accident. Composer Maury Laws and lyricist Jules Bass wrote every tune. They wanted music kids could sing and parents could enjoy. Listen closely. Each character has their own theme.
Cover the dogs?
And electric trains.
Oh, the rocking horses with...
Mrs. Claus gets gentle strings.
What are you up to, Ma?
Me? Up to something? Oh, ridiculous.
Southtown has a sunny swing, and Santa's sad moments are played in soft minor chords.
On the double!
Their music carries the story just like the puppets do.
Spirit there, just as I feared. They're in trouble already.
That's why you leave the special humming, and why those melodies stay in your head for life. Fact 13, the remake that froze over. In 2006, NBC tried a live-action remake with big stars like John Goodman and Harvey Fierstein. It looked shiny and new, but fans didn't love it. The magic felt different. Without the tiny clay puppets and handmade sets, the story lost its cozy charm.
What happened to the spirit of Christmas? Now all anybody cares about it.
The songs turned into stage numbers, and the warmth of the original melted away. Sometimes, the small imperfections, the fingerprints in the snowbanks are the magic. When you polish everything, you can rub the heart right off. Fact 14. The night it all aired. The first broadcast was on December 10th, 1974 on ABC. It ran for about 51 minutes short, but packed with story and song. Back then, you couldn't stream it. If you missed it, you waited a year. That made it special. Families gathered in living rooms, the TV's blue glow bouncing off tinsel. When it ended, the room felt quiet and warm at the same time. That's the power of old TV 51 minutes that still feel like a whole season of Christmas. Fact 15, Mrs. Claus, the real boss of the North Pole. Here's the secret. This isn't really Santa's story, it's Mrs. Claus's. She sees him lose hope and decides to fix things herself. She sends out Jingle and Jangle, talks to Mother Nature, and gets everyone moving again. She doesn't give speeches, she just gets the job done.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that.
I'll straighten them out.
Calm, clever, and full of heart, she's the reason Christmas is saved. Long before we talked about strong female leads, Mrs. Claus was already running the North Pole, quietly, efficiently, and with a smile.
My eyes, I could be Santa Claus.
Fact 16, Vixen in the Pound. When the story got serious, for all the songs and laughter, the saddest moment is when Vixen the reindeer ends up in the dog pound. Santa dressed up as Klaus goes to rescue her, worried and gentle, like a grandpa pleading with City Hall. Suddenly the story isn't about magic or snow anymore. It's about kindness, fighting against cold rules. You can almost feel how scared Vixen is and how unfair it seems. When the gate finally opens, it feels like Christmas itself takes a deep breath. Fact 17. The Grinch's voice told this story. First, before Clay Santa ever sneezed on TV in 1974, this story had already been told by one of the most famous voices in Christmas history. In 1968, actor Boris Karloff, the same voice who narrated How the Grinch Stole Christmas, recorded an audio version of The Year Without a Santa Claus. It was one of the last things he did before he passed away the next year.
Hanging their stockings, these snobs.
So for some families, this tale started not with puppets, but with a voice on a record player. Karloff quietly reading about a tired Santa who wants to take a year off. Years later, kids met the same story again in stop motion without ever realizing it had once been told by the man who gave us the Grinch. It's like a hidden crossover between two Christmas universes, connected only by that calm, spooky, unforgettable voice.
The Grinch earned Karloff a Grammy, the only major award of his career, and provided him with the largest audience of any project he ever worked on.
Fact 18, the prequel that messes with time. The Year Without a Santa Claus is often treated as a prequel to Rudolph, even though Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer came out a full decade earlier in 1964. Fan guides and Rankin experts list this film, and Santa Claus is coming to town as stories that take place many years before Rudolph is even born. So your childhood timeline is backwards. First you met Rudolph in the 60s. Then in the 70s, TV quietly slipped you Santa's burnout year as backstory. On top of that, Rankin Bass literally reused designs and puppets for Santa and Mrs. Claus across the specials, which makes it look like the same couple aging and looping through different crises in different decades. It's like the Christmas universe is out of order. You watched the sequel first, then later discovered the weird, slightly rougher origin story where Santa almost quit. Fact 19, still snowing after 50 years. It's been more than 50 years since The Year Without a Santa Claus first aired, and people still watch it every December. It keeps popping up on TV, marathons, streaming sites, and even memes. Kids see it for the first time, their parents remember seeing it long ago, and grandparents smile because it feels like home. The show survived because it became a tradition, the music, the moral, the snow. The flakes in Southtown were a miracle, but the real miracle is how that feeling keeps returning, year after year. Like the snow itself, it never truly melts. Fact 20, the Mad Magazine artist who drew Christmas. Those rubbery noses, skinny legs, and squishy cheeks, they didn't come out of nowhere. The look of The Year Without a Santa Claus comes from artist Paul Coker Jr., a longtime illustrator for Mad Magazine and greeting cards. Rankin Bass hired him to design characters for many of their specials, and he gave them all the same slightly goofy charm like doodles that jumped off a Christmas card and started walking. Mrs. Claus's kind eyes, the miser's wild hair, even the mayor's round, worried face all carry his style. You can spot it in other specials too, like Frosty and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Once you know his name, you can't unsee it. It's like realizing one cartoonist secretly drew half your childhood holidays. Fact 21, the voices you never noticed. We all remember Mickey Rooney and Shirley Booth. But the rest of the cast did double and even triple duty. Bob McFadden voices Jingle and the Elf Doctor. Bradley Bolke plays Jangle, the police officer, and even the dog catcher. Rhoda Mann is both Mother Nature and Mrs. Thistlewhite. Ron Marshall handles Mr. Thistlewhite and the mayor of Southtown. On TV, you just hear a busy little world of adults, kids, and authority figures. Behind the mic, it was a small group of actors swapping voices like hats. It's an old TV trick, a tiny cast pretending to be a whole town. As a kid, you never noticed. As an adult, it makes you appreciate how much work went into every ho 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 and yes ma'am. Fact 22, from TV special to TikTok and ugly sweaters. For a show from 1974, The Year Without a Santa Claus has had a weirdly modern second life. The Miser brothers, especially, have jumped off the TV screen and into merch, memes, and social media, Christmas sweaters, ornaments, and even a TikTok makeup challenge where people turn themselves into Heat Miser or Snow Miser. What started as a one-night TV event now pops up in short clips, reaction videos, and holiday playlists. A teenager scrolling their phone might meet the Misers before they ever sit through the whole special. It proves how strong the designs and songs are. Even stripped of context, they still work. The world changes from ABC to streaming to TikTok, but two braggy brothers and one tired Santa keep finding new ways to show up every December. Fact 23, the puppets that almost all disappeared. Those puppets feel solid and permanent on screen, but in real life, they were fragile. Rankin, Bass's stop-motion figures were coated with a special spray so they wouldn't shine under the lights. Over time, that coating actually broke down the rubber and foam, making the bodies crack and crumble. Many Animagic puppets from different specials were either given away to employees as souvenirs or simply wore out and vanished. That means the original Santa, Mrs. Claus, and the Miser brothers from The Year Without a Santa Claus almost certainly did not survive. Today, collectors mostly work with recreations and restored figures. It's strange to think about. A special that feels eternal is built from dolls that only lasted a few years. The film kept the magic alive long after the puppets themselves turned to dust. Fact 24, Rankin Bass's Big Double. 1974 wasn't just The Year Without a Santa Claus, it was a double feature year for Rankin Bass. That same season, they also released 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, a traditionally animated special about a town trying to win back Santa's favor with a giant clock. One year, two very different Christmas stories, one done in cozy stop-motion clay, one in bright hand-drawn animation. Together, they show the studio at its peak, flipping between styles but keeping the same emotional core music, faith, and second chances. If you grew up in the 70s, those two titles probably blurred together on TV marathons. You just remember that the same names Rankin and Bass always meant, okay everyone, sit down, this one matters. Fact 25, the Christmas story told by Mrs. Claus herself. Most Christmas specials are told by a narrator on the sidelines. Here, the storyteller is Mrs. Claus herself. Shirley Booth doesn't just play her, she narrates the whole thing, as if she's sitting by the fire telling us about that one year Santa almost quit.
The spirit left over from last year.
That framing makes everything feel like a family story, handed down instead of announced. She isn't just a side character, she's the memory keeper of the North Pole. Even when the camera isn't on her, her voice guides us through Southtown, the Misers, and Santa's doubt. It quietly shifts the power. This isn't a legend about a hero saving the day. It's a wife, looking back on the year she had to step in and remind the world who her husband really was. Fact 26, a tiny special with a big song list. For a short special, this thing is packed with music. The soundtrack mixes original songs with classic Christmas tunes. The Year Without a Santa Claus. I Could Be Santa Claus. I Believe in Santa Claus. It's Gonna Snow Right Here in Dixie. The two Miser songs. Plus Blue Christmas, Here Comes Santa Claus, and even Sleigh Ride. You barely notice how many there are because each one fits a place. The kids longing in Southtown, the mayor's bragging, Santa's sadness, the Misers show off routines. Blue Christmas, which started as a country song and became famous through Elvis, suddenly turns into a children's choir moment in a clay animated town. It's like a whole Christmas jukebox crammed into under an hour, which is why you walk away humming 3 different tunes at once. Fact 27. The year the kids gave Santa the presents. Here's a twist most people forget. In the end, kids send gifts to Santa. When the world hears he's too discouraged to fly, children everywhere mail him presents and letters, and newspapers run headlines about people trying to cheer him up. It flips the usual Christmas script. Instead of Santa showing up to prove he still cares, the children have to prove they still care about him. As a kid, you just remember piles of packages and a suddenly hopeful Santa. As an adult, it hits deeper. It says even the person who gives everything sometimes needs something back, a sign they're still wanted. That quiet montage of gifts is the emotional reset button that brings him out of bed and back into the sky. Fact 28. A Christmas made between New York and Tokyo. The Year Without a Santa Claus wasn't created in one place. The scripts, voices, and music came from Rankin Bass's production base in New York, while the stop-motion animation was done by a studio crew in Japan using the animagic technique. That meant film, designs, and notes traveling back and forth across the Pacific in the early 1970s, long before email and Zoom calls. Japanese cinematographers helped give the mini-sets their glowing storybook look. So when you watch Santa trudge through southern streets or the misers burst into song, you're seeing a true international project. American holiday ideas, Japanese craft, one little TV time slot. It's a global Christmas long before the word globalization showed up on the news. Fact 29, how home video gave it a second life. If this special had only lived on its first ABC broadcasts, it might have faded away. Instead, it got rescued by home video. Warner Brothers released remastered editions on DVD in the 2000 and later on Blu-ray in 2010, polishing the colors and cleaning up the picture while keeping the classic 4:3 TV shape. Suddenly fans could watch it whenever they wanted, not just when a network decided to air it. You could see details, the old tube TVs, blurred stitching on costumes, brush marks in painted snow, tiny props on Southtown streets. For a lot of families, the disc itself became a tradition. Same case pulled off the shelf every December, same worn menu, same click of play, starting winter all over again. Fact 30. Before the book, it was a magazine poem. Most people think the story started as a children's book. That's only half true. In 1956, Phyllis McGinley first published The Year Without a Santa Claus as a poem in Good Housekeeping magazine. It was so popular that it was turned into a picture book the next year, with new illustrations by artist Kurt Worth. So the TV special isn't just based on a book, it's based on a magazine poem that mothers and kids read at the kitchen table in the 50s. Rankin Bass then stretched that slim little verse into a full adventure with elves, misers, Southtown, and Mother Nature. The whole thing grew from a few printed stanzas into clay puppets, songs, and a 51-minute holiday tradition.